All right. What is up, guys? Today we have a long-awaited uh, interview slash hangout with our man Josiah from Digibyte. We've been trying to set this up for a while to talk about Digi Assets, so here we are. Welcome, my friend. Want to
Thank you so much.
share what you're up to these days, who you are, what you're doing, with for those who might not know you.
Yeah, okay, well, why don't I start off with a real quick kind of introduction then? So my name is Josiah, and I'm here predominantly on behalf of Digibyte, I suppose. So obviously with Digibyte, because we're not any kind of like an overarching company or anything along those lines, I'm basically just here because we are a permissionless blockchain, and anybody can represent Digibyte much in the way that anybody can represent Bitcoin. So yeah, this is it's actually funny as well, because you were literally talking, I think yesterday on Twitter about doing paid promotions, and here we are, and it's not being paid by either of us, so it's probably worth just kind of throwing that out there for people to be aware. Thank you for having us on the show though, to talk about some of the awesome stuff that we're doing, and yeah, let's show people some cool things today with DigiAssets. Maybe we can talk a little bit about AutoCrypt, Dandelion. You've done a video recently, which our community was super grateful for. It was really interesting, and gave people like a really good kind of just a little taste of what they are, right? Like it was brilliant. So
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, for me, when we look at all of these things that are happening in the market today, there's so much detail that you can go into. You could have video after video about all these topics and talk about them to no end. But Digi Assets is one point that I think a lot of people are interested in, the ability to create your own custom tokens, if you will, or digital assets on what is the fastest blockchain around, in my opinion, for transactions. So do you want to give folks just a little background on what DigiAssets is and what work's been done to date on it, and then we can show them how it works?
yeah, well, so DigiAssets is basically, like you say, created with the idea that you can issue your own assets, your own tokens, your own trading cards, your own concert tickets, for example. And the idea is that you can do it straight both from your PC and eventually also from mobile. It's one of the things we're working super hard on, is the ability to do all of these kind of things from your cell phone. Because it's fantastic that I can issue an asset and send it to you, and you can issue an asset and send it to me. But you and I are never going to kind of take a laptop and like prop it up and hold it and take it to like a concert to use as a ticket. Like it's not going to happen. So we're being more practical, I suppose, in that kind of approach. And as an Ethereum developer, no doubt you're aware of everything that happened with CryptoKitties around sort of November, December 2017. And it was a hugely popular DApp on the blockchain. And it meant that there were scaling issues brought to light. So hopefully with Digibyte's ability to scale into the future, this is going to be something that we are going to be able to handle. Like, let's say 100,000 people showing up at a music concert in the space of like half an hour. You've got to be able to handle that kind of transaction volume. And because they are asset transactions, it's not just a matter of sending a small amount of Digibyte or Bitcoin or anything, but there's all of that additional metadata that we are, I suppose, attaching to the transaction, which increases the size. So yeah, it's kind of a combination of a whole bunch of things, and we're really looking into the future in ways that we can make this practical. Is probably the biggest takeaway that I want people to have. This is going to be practical for you, and you'll use it in your daily life, potentially without even knowing that you're using like Digibyte as an underlying layer maybe. So it's exciting. It's really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. And to your point, a lot of the problems with digital assets has been their usefulness is restricted by scalability or by, interoperability. How easy is it for people to use it in the first place? If it's not on mobile, you're right. It's not as easy for people to practically take this and put it into applications that really matter. So one of the questions that I had is moving into the future, DigiAssets, could that be something that integrates into apps that exist today? Whether that be social networking apps, whether that be product or service applications that people use all the time. Is that something that you guys are thinking about?
Yeah, definitely. So there's a whole bunch of different avenues. So I suppose the thing with calling them assets is that we've left this really broad scope available for people to do whatever they want with them, because assets is kind of a nice overarching sort of principle and title, as it were, for what you can do with it. So a ticket to a concert, like if you're going to go out and you're going to see Elton John's farewell tour, that's a ticket. That's also an asset that you have. Same thing goes for if you have a trading card, that's an asset. Or maybe you have your will and testament on the blockchain, or your title to your house, or shares in a business. They're all assets that you own. So assets is actually just, even just in the name, is just so on point. I love it. It's, yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I mean, for me, I think it's novel too, in the sense that people are very familiar with the idea of a tokenized or a digital asset from projects like Ethereum, for example, where CryptoKitties exist. You have all these different types of tokens and coins, etc. But to bring that to a UTXO based blockchain that is all about speed, it's sort of a whole nother level. And I think what gets people confused is how is this all enabled? How does this all work? So at a high level, could you give folks just an understanding of the general way technically that this is built out to interact with the Digibyte blockchain?
Sure. Okay, so when you send a transaction, let's say I'm going to send you some Digibyte. There is an additional field that we can include some extra data with, which is called OP return. And it does both nothing and it does a whole lot all at the same time. And there's a whole bunch of extra little kind of scripting options available to us, but for the most part, that's where the juicy data gets stored. So when I send you this transaction and I send you, let's say, 1,000th of a Digibyte, along with that, I can include some additional data. Now, this additional data basically says, effectively, here's my asset identifier, and I'm sending one of them to you. So I'm sending you one of these tickets or one of these printed tethers or anything along those lines. And so in a nutshell, that's basically what DigiAssets is a sort of set of, I suppose, protocols and ways for this to be traded and sent back and forth, created and even burned. So you can create, send, receive, burn assets, all with DigiAssets. Now, so to start with, we've got the DigiVault, which I understand you've got set up, and we'll show people, hopefully, a live demo, first time ever. And nothing ever goes wrong when you're doing a demo live, does it? So.
No, never. Only every time.
Every time. So DigiAssets, DigiVault is one of the pieces of software that we have, and we're also going to be bringing it to Digibyte Mobile. We've been in talks with other third-party wallet vendors about implementing these kind of standards into their applications so that they can all communicate with each other, send assets, receive assets, and hopefully we're going to change the world.
Excellent, man. I love that goal. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And so I guess going off of what you said about how this works semantically, would it be fair to say that whenever there's a transaction of a DigiAsset, is it a mirrored transaction of Digibyte, or is it a separate transaction all in and of itself using that extra parameter or field?
Yes and no. So actually, I tell you what, like, how do you feel about doing a quick screen share? Actually, maybe I could even bring up mine and we can screen share this. Like,
Sure, yeah. If you share, it'll be on the recording. Perfect.
Like, again, this is going to be live. Like, nothing ever goes wrong when you're doing things live. So
no worries, man. When you're building the future, it doesn't always have to go perfectly every time.
I like that. So what I'll do is, if we go in here, where's my magic screen share button? And let's hit share. Okay, so can you see this coming through?
Yep, we're in business.
This is the testnet explorer. So what I'm going to show you is the issuance up here. We can see there's a whole bunch of asset transactions. And if I click on this transaction here, this is the issuance. So as part of this issuance, we can see down here that actually it contains the following DigiAssets. So there's like, 60 trillion, I think, of this particular asset. So if we click on the asset, it's going to give you a bit of an actual overview about it. US dollar, untethered, take 6. But so if we go back though, we can see here that it takes the input, it takes your Digibyte. It's also going to send some of the Digibytes to the address that it's sent the asset to. And this is the asset part down here. So this is what is effectively going into that OP return. sort of like I mentioned. So there is several components to it. It is basically just a Digibyte transaction, and Digibyte will also be used effectively kind of like the gas that powers the car, which we can also see over here. So this is part of the Digibyte. And yeah, it both is and isn't just a standard transaction at the same time. So
gotcha. So I guess theoretically, you could think of this Digibyte as both, the vehicle, the carrier of that metadata, but also the, necessary input for this transaction itself to be successful.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's tough to kind of, I suppose, make some kind of an analogy that explains this. I haven't actually thought of a really decent one yet, and I've been working on this now for quite a while. So
yeah,
if you come up with an awesome analogy, let me know. And we'll
Cool, sounds good. Yeah, I think, well, that those are the types of things that I think people, when they hear about DigiAssets and they understand what Digibyte is, being a UTXO blockchain, not having inherently smart contract, enablement. I know that that's something that's also in the cards, but people are wondering, how could this possibly work? But I think that gives a good idea of the way that you guys set this up. You're taking advantage of stuff that's already there to make this possible.
Exactly. So now is probably a really good time to give people like a really brief sort of history. So you've heard of Mastercoin, and you've heard of colored coins and the Omni layer as well. So all of these are basically things that have gone before, as it were. And this is effectively how Tether itself is actually created on top of the Bitcoin blockchain for people who are unaware. So utilizing some of that same underlying code, and it's actually how the Ethereum blockchain itself was started, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was based off some of the Mastercoin developments. We've basically kind of taken that and mashed up a whole bunch of the code and kind of modified it to work with Digibyte, and included all of our scaling benefits and things like that. And you kind of get this nice, really big picture for ways that you can do assets on a global level, rather than being limited to, like, for example, it was originally tried on Bitcoin at 4 transactions per second. That's not gonna scale.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we were actually talking about this in one of our developer chats, I think about a week ago now, and the question was, look, if we ran a concert and we had 150,000 people show up at a concert in the space of an hour, could we take that transaction volume on the network and survive, or would it fall over? And so, yeah, like the Digibyte network can handle that kind of an influx of transaction volume in such a short amount of time already, thanks to the faster block timings and things like that. So yeah, it's super exciting. And that's just a little bit of a insight into the history. There's been talks about people asking, could we do Solidity contracts? Possibly. I haven't gone through the full implications of that, but there's talk that it would be possible. So
right. Well, I mean, I think the complexity with bringing smart contracts in is then you're introducing a whole nother level of state to the mix. Ethereum keeps track of so many varieties of state, and that's why it's so complicated. And that's why it's so hard as a developer to not fall into a trapdoor when you put a DApp out there. But yeah, I mean, the virtual machine part is always the gotcha when you're trying to do that.
Yeah. So the theory is there that it should be possible.
Right.
Will it happen? I don't know. Like, let's be honest, that may never actually happen. So I don't want people to go, yeah, we're going to do Solidity contracts. No, I'm not saying that. So
yeah. Well, I would venture to say too, that there are more pressing things to come for Digibyte in the near future, and even in the extended future, that are aside from smart contracts, that are very valuable, right? Especially if DigiAssets can come into the mix. One of the primary reasons that smart contracts are so important, because they are sort of the conduit by which you can create new tokenized assets. So if that availability is still here without using smart contracts, then you've already taken one of the major use cases out. So
yeah, and I suppose as well, trying to simplify it. And so I guess that's one of the things that we'll see with DigiVault. And how do you feel about kind of firing this up and doing this live then? And
let's do it. I have your address here. Let me fire up my my screen recording too, just in case this one were to fail for some reason. I'm going to share DigiVault with you. Let me know if you can see it.
Yep.
Cool. I'm copying your address. And I'm going to go ahead and send these over to you. So I'm going to send, let's just go 1. We're just going to go for a small fraction here. Let's drop your address in and go ahead and hit send.
Nice.
Get the notification in the corner here. And also let me know on your side.
So what I should actually do is, if I am clever about this, I will also bring up it's just popped up right now in my, where's the share button? I can't share while you're sharing. That's cool.
I'll switch
it's
off.
Popped up inside of my wallet, and my wallet's basically said, yep, that's cool. It's gone through.
I just relinquished share, so it's all yours.
What I can do then is if I go share screen 3, and right as I said that, it's just come in. You just missed it coming in.
No, it's all good. But honestly, there's virtually no way that you could have created something new and faked it on your end. So we're okay.
Yeah, maybe we planned this really, really well in advance. But really the cool thing is, I guess, if I go back to the Digi Explorer, so I can see that one of these was you issuing it originally. If I reload this, so this is now the additional transaction that has just happened in this latest block. You can see this tiny, tiny amount here. And if I bring back up the Digi Vault, we can see that that's the total issued for this hashes. And back in my dashboard, I have 0.001 hashes.
So I went super conservatively on the number of things that I created. When I went to create, I should have gone big. I don't know why I went small.
Yeah, well, like, look, I've been doing what, like 60 trillion or 600 trillion or something. Like,
maybe I really like scarcity. That's all.
Well, I mean, apparently the US dollar not so scarce, right? But enough. Yeah, that was why I was testing originally with all of these, is to like that's effectively what Tether is, and it's up to me to basically say that I've got the money somewhere else.
Right.
But you can have awesome coin here, and I created this awesome coin because everything is awesome.
Great reference.
I've sent one of them out to somebody else, so there's now 2 holders. And yeah, it's pretty much that easy to hit the send button. So did you want to try and like issue something live as well, and we'll risk it and see if that goes through too? I
recorded the original creation of the one that I did this morning.
With the movie magic, we can make it
look good. Well, there is no movie magic because it was me trying to do this all from scratch this morning, so it'll be a little rough. I'm happy if you want to put together like a fake one, we can do like Josiah and Hashoshi's.
Wait, okay, I tell you what, why don't you do that? Make one. So one of the ideas that people had is that you can use, because you can create a token, you can use it for a whole bunch of different things without it having to specifically have an inherent dollar value. So one of the things that people have talked about is the idea that you could send tokens to people who leave meaningful comments or things like that in your videos, and who help out the community or whatever, and basically in the YouTube section. And you can send them assets like your Hashoshi coin, for example. Now, then maybe, let's say once every 3 months, you then take like a bit of a poll and you go, all right, I've got these 2 addresses over here. Send your Hashoshi coins back to me over here if you want me to do a review of AutoCrypt, or send them back to this address if you want me to do something discussing how I develop smart contracts on Ethereum. And so you could do that and use that as a poll to reward people who've been active in your community. And although there's no monetary value to them, this is still something cool that you can go, actually, you know what? I'm not going to send this asset back to you because I want to keep this. I want to have it in my showcase here to be able to show people that I've said something valuable and you've rewarded me for it. So
I mean, those are powerful things. Let's do it. All right, cool. I'm gonna share again. Share the vault. I think I hit the faucet this morning, so I should have enough to issue again.
So people have asked how much Digibyte is actually used for a transaction, and it doesn't use a lot. So if you go out and you've bought yourself, let's say you have 1 Digibyte and it's sitting in your wallet, that's probably going to last you quite a long time. When you send the asset as well, it also happens to send a small fraction to the destination, which gets consumed with it, specifically to be used so that the transaction could later be burned if it needed to, things like that. But yeah, so although you won't need a lot, it is also going to very much encourage people to have Digibyte in their wallet and to be using it on the regular. So
excellent. All right. So one thing I was going to say is maybe when we go through this, this create asset flow here, we can just talk about what these different pieces, what these pieces do. So obviously the first one is pretty self-explanatory, asset name.
Yep.
Right. So this reissuable section here, obviously you've got your little info box here, which is great. But essentially my understanding is that you can then later create more of these without having it locked into a fixed supply, correct?
Correct. Yeah, so if you wanted to make something that is limited, let's say you want to make Bitcoin, you would untick asset reissuable. So there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, and you can issue them right away and you're good to go. Now, if you wanted to do something, for example, where you can reissue, like let's say Tether, for example, Tether is reissuable, so they would leave that ticked.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. So if you want to have variable supply, keep it checked. So issuance amount, also pretty self-explanatory. Let's just do, we'll do 1 million in this case.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I'm bad with zeros. Divisibility, basically the number of decimal points and fractions that you can send and receive.
Yep. So when you do the divisibility, you need to add that number of additional zeros onto the issue amount. I think it's similar to the way that Ethereum does their whole issuance.
Interesting. Good tip there. I did not do that on my other asset, so that makes sense. Cool. So the asset description, this is also in the metadata, correct? For this.
Yep. And this will also show up on the Digi Explorer as well. So if you happen to put something in there like, I love this channel, it's the best, it will be enshrined for all eternity on the Explorer, and when people bring it up inside their cell phone and things as well to be able to have a look at. So yeah. Just be careful what you put in there, because if you put in there like I love my wife, it will be on the blockchain forever, and
you got it.
Cool.
Awesome. I'm going to leave the default image because I was trying to drop in, I was testing this earlier and I was dropping in different file formats just to see what it would like and what it doesn't like. I have all these weird file formats, so I'm not going to bother.
Yeah. So for the most part, it's GIF, JPEG, PNGs, and it supports, I don't remember the exact resolution. I think it's like up to 500 by 500 pixels. And I think it will do, I think it was 400 kilobytes.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I dropped in a big SVG file. It was not happy with me.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to click next here. So here you can add other metadata to verify that this is coming from a legit source. So I just added my Twitter account, which I added an extra @ sign to. That's my mistake, but cool. So essentially here, you have the option then to put this on an SSL certified server, like to reference your SSL certified server. So honestly, running this like a certificate check almost.
Correct. Yeah, cool. sort of just like when you're in your browser and you see the padlock up the top there, you can click on the padlock and it will say, this is actually from Twitter Incorporated or Facebook Incorporated. This is how people can also kind of reference, this exactly the same thing with verifying that you are who you say you are.
That's really smart. Yeah, because for me, part of the problem is what's stopping someone from creating a digital asset that's representative of something else without a way to tell who's is legit, right?
So if you have, like, let's say Disney issuing a Marvel asset, maybe they're issuing a commemorative trading card based on Avengers Endgame, they would be able to verify, and you could see, right, they've verified their Twitter, they've verified their Facebook, this has definitely come from marvel. This is an official product. It isn't just some Joe blogs off the road who's gone and is trying to scam you out of money. So
fair. Totally. Okay, cool. So go ahead and hit issue here. So this popped up earlier, but this is only because of my issuance address.
Right.
So I don't have enough in here. Yeah. So
you've got the testnet faucet as well.
Yep, I have that. I'm gonna go ahead and hit that real quick.
It's probably also a really interesting time for me to mention Dandelion. Now, depending on what you did when you set this up, you may or may not have Dandelion also enabled on your core wallet. Now, this is interesting when you're issuing assets and things, because it means that when you click on the button and you issue it, it doesn't get broadcast out to the mempool immediately because it is a Dandelion transaction. So
right.
We had some fun in testing originally. Dandelion caused us a whole lot of fun, to say the least.
Yeah, I cannot say I blame you there.
But we got it working. So the idea is you can still even issue assets with Dandelion enabled. It does take obviously a few seconds longer while it's going through the whole process of broadcasting the transaction.
Cool. Yeah, I just saw I was going and submitting to the testnet here, the faucet. That's sorted. So I'll go have to close this out and reopen it probably to get that sorted out.
Nothing like doing it live.
Yeah, you got it. Well, there's the incoming transaction.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, I mean, you can see here the notification. That'd be hard to fake for me, I think. Got my Digibyte incoming here. Cool. So Josiah, question for you. Would I have to close this bad boy out and reopen it to for it to work, or will it pick up based on that that transaction coming through?
Let's give it a whirl. I'm pretty sure it should just pick it straight up.
Great. Let's give it a shot here.
So it's going to remember all of the things that you've gone and filled in there, your details, the image, how much, all that sort of jazz. So
it's actually super nice. Don't have to retype it.
Yeah.
The asset. Cool. Well, not the same error, at least. The only other thing that I ran into this morning, yeah, it worked. Nice. Nice and clean.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So, we can show it on the Block Explorer, of course.
Yeah. So in terms of issuing an asset, like it's pretty much that straightforward. Like this isn't rocket science. This isn't something that you need to have any kind of like a PhD or to be like a programmer or anything along those lines. Yeah, right. So it'll show up once it's actually been validated. So it's been sent through to it. But if you're looking on the Block Explorer, the block will show as -0 right now because it hasn't actually been incorporated into a block on the testnet. So it will show up shortly though. Cool. I'm seeing it here actually.
Yep, you can see the transaction that went out. The total assets, the decimal point places, transaction ID. Cool.
Again, because this is still very early beta, we haven't got the polling quite sorted perfectly either. So, and again, we had to tweak a few bits and pieces when it came to Dandelion. So you'll forgive us. One of the things that might be really good for you to show people, potentially now or potentially later, I suppose, is how the UI is going to look. Yeah. Because it will look a whole lot prettier.
Yeah, why don't you chat about that? And when I put this up, I'll overlay the screen grabs that you showed me of the new design. And you're totally free to try and share it here too if you want. That's up to you.
I'll probably end up sharing like the wrong thing or whatever, and when it comes to trying to bring those pictures up, but
no stress.
So the idea is, well, a little bit of history. So we ran a community contest back in the day, and this was for redesigning the mobile wallets because they're also based off the original Bitcoin bread wallet. Mm-hmm. So we went actually, I wonder if I could, let me go ahead and bring that up real quick because that would be interesting to show people. So we ran this design contest with the idea that we wanted to spruce things up. We wanted it to look nice. We want to kind of be able to hold our heads high and say, yeah, this looks pretty. This is great. We want people to use it and to be excited about the fact that it actually just looks good. So we ran a design contest for ourselves, cell phone apps. And let me bring this up here and share it. Share screen 3. So we ran a Digibyte mobile design contest, and if I scroll down, this is basically how the app used to look.
Right. Well acquainted
with Bread Wallet, right?
Yeah.
So it's subsequently changed quite a lot. And if we go back to voting, I think I even took like some of the, okay, I was just talking about them. But the one that ended up winning, I wonder if I can go to Demir's. Let's see what happens here. So this was basically what he had. Come on, Imager, you can do it.
You got it.
This was his redesign. So we took this for mobile, and our developers implemented it, and it actually looks strikingly similar to all of these original design mockups and things. Now, we've kind of gone and done the same sort of thing with the Digi Vault, and I've sent you a couple of some of the mockups and things like that as well. This is currently being worked on, the idea that it stays in the same sort of a theme, the same look, the same feel. Right. And we want to kind of keep that continuity between them. So
yeah, love that.
We've got a couple of them. Maybe I'll quickly talk about what they actually, the photos are. So in terms of if you've got those 3 that I've sent you, so the original one basically says there's no assets. This is before you've gone and issued any, before you've gone and received any assets. We've got our kind of our send, our receive, burn options for them as well, which is pretty cool. In one of the other screenshots, I have a kind of a list where it shows that you own several different assets. So no doubt viewers will be familiar compared to what you had before, where it showed you a couple of assets. Likewise, this will show that there's 4 different assets, varying amounts, gives you different options for what you want to do with them. And again, even creating a new asset, we want to make it, keep it nice and simple, like people have just seen. Right. Sending assets, the idea being that you can obviously just punch in your address, and that's pretty much it. Like they saw at the start, when you sent that asset through to me, you just put your asset in and put in how much. We want to give people the option to potentially add in a short memo or specify the amount of things. And
right.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward for the most part. So I think the team have done well, and we're going to basically be sprucing it up, really, just to make it look nice, make it look pretty. Why not?
Yeah, and I have to say, honestly, even though this is in early days, setting it up from scratch, granted, I do this kind of stuff a fair bit. The instructions that you put together to get this set up locally on a Windows machine work pretty flawlessly. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. That's more than can be said for some of the developer tools to actually make stuff with other things. So that's good news.
So this was very much, the difficult part was when we were doing this as we were also doing AutoCrypt and doing Dandelion. So 2 decently major changes to the underlying Digibyte protocol. And as a result, we had to, like you've seen with those instructions, customize them and give people kind of like step-by-step instructions on how to use it and things like that. Right. Now, when it comes time to actually give this out to people en masse, it will basically just be the same as it is for downloading the Digibyte Core wallet. You just run the program and it fires up. It does all of the magic in the background there for you, and that's pretty much it. So, cool. Yeah,
definitely. And I think that's once the hard part is done, and that is building out the actual product, making it work. And especially when protocol changes are happening, when you have something that requires transactions to occur, blockchain APIs to be called, these sorts of things, it gets very wonky really fast. So
it really does.
I don't blame you one bit.
Well, especially when it came to Dandelion, right? So normally when you create a transaction and you broadcast it, it's in the mempool straight away. So for your viewers, the mempool is basically kind of like a holding bay where all the transactions go before they actually get put into a block. And kind of letting people know this is some of the transactions that could go into the next block, or if you're Bitcoin, maybe the next like 10 blocks if they start to back up. Now, we have fun with Dandelion because when you broadcast the transaction, you don't broadcast it to everybody. You only send it to one person in order to kind of maintain that privacy layer and obfuscate your IP address. So when you were broadcasting these transactions, they weren't showing up in the mempool right away. And so the app's basically going, where's this transaction gone? I just sent it out. Where is it? Why can I not find it? And so, like you say, all of those little calls and those little subtle nuances that go into it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a fun few months, to say the least.
No doubt. I totally, totally understand. So, I mean, obviously the UI changes are coming. That stuff is important. I know that a lot of people talk about that is one of the barriers to adoption is it needs to be really easy to use. To me, this is easy to use. Like it doesn't mean that it has to be the most beautiful thing in the world if it works. But I also think that people love to have a beautifully designed app that looks like what they expect, right?
Yep.
So that's obviously a positive thing. But from the technology perspective, from a functionality perspective, what is on the horizon, obviously, that you can share for DigiAssets, but also just for Digibyte in general? Just, I know that was a question I got asked a lot.
Yeah.
Doing this, whatever you can divulge, I'll leave it to you.
Right. Well, I mean, so the video that you actually did, which was probably, when was that? Like, I think it was about 4 weeks ago now.
Yeah, just about a month. I think I did that overview of the few big things.
Yeah, so those are definitely some of the big things. So specifically, Dandelion is now out and it's on the mainnet and people are using it, and it's great because it's completely invisible. Mm-hmm. So even better than a nice UI is one where you don't need a UI, where it just happens completely transparently in the background. You don't know what's even going on, but you're that much more secure as a result of Dandelion. So that's one of the things. Also with DigiAssets, I suppose, so we had the Digibyte Summit, which happened where Jared issued one of the first, I suppose, assets on the mainnet, which was quite cool. And he sent that to Block 30 Labs, the DigiTorch. DigiAssets is probably going to be a bit of a focus in terms of mobile for us more, though. That's where we're going to also be working. So it's great that we're going to have DigiVault so that people can use it on their PC, but like I mentioned earlier, you're never going to go to a concert and kind of like hold up your laptop to be let into, like, here's my laptop, scan a QR code and let me into the stadium. It's never going to happen. But people have their cell phones on them, so you've got to have a really nice mobile application that people can use. And we have a beautiful mobile app that well, people have seen the screenshots and things from. So that's going to be pretty key, because if we want to start doing some of these things, like everybody talks about, it's such a dirty word, everybody talks about mass adoption. Yeah. And people using it on a daily basis. Damn, I hate saying it, but that's the end game, is people using this. Like what good is it having it if it is limited to just laptops? I mean, you can still get a fair amount of use out of it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but not at the scale and not at the level of value. In my opinion, the projects that I like the most in terms of what they're doing in the space are projects that are value first. So we're not just going to build something that works. We're going to build something that works that people are actually going to use and will find valuable. Because you're totally right. If it's only used in some very isolated capacity, how truly valuable will it be?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that sums it up beautifully, really. If you are only using it in these small little kind of like bundled up areas of the internet, it's only ever going to stay like a 0.1% kind of thing that the population uses. Like, but yeah, so mobile is going to be pretty big. So keep an eye out soon. Actually, I've been talking with the developers, and the initial release will probably just be sending and receiving. Mm-hmm. From inside of mobile. It's most of what people are going to want to be able to do. Send assets, receive assets. That's going to be the initial kind of minimum viable product that we're going to add on to Digibyte Mobile. So that's probably not actually that far off, which is quite exciting. After that, we will add in the ability to issue them and reissue assets from your mobile, the ability to burn assets as well. We're looking at doing some other cool stuff like we talked before about, so that coin that you've gone and created, or that token now for this live stream that we're doing, or Hangout, sorry, what if somebody wants to keep it? Like, what if you send it to somebody and as a result of a comment that they've put in their in one of your YouTube videos, and they go, actually, I'm quite proud of this. I made a comment and Forrest liked it, and he's gone and he sent me this. I'm not actually going to send it back to him. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in a showcase inside my mobile app over here that I can point to and I can say to my friends, look what I've got. So we're gonna, yeah, exactly. Like we want people to be proud of these assets that they're going to be accumulating inside of their wallet. And so we're going to build like a little bit of a showcase, kind of like a trophy cabinet, if you will. Like, wouldn't that be cool to be able to go to your friends and say, look at what I've got. Look, I just managed to get this latest limited edition virtual crypto kitty or trading card, or I've gone and bought shares now in some company. Like look, I've got these shares and I've got it on display now for you to see. Right. So a little bit of, you know, bragging about that kind of thing amongst your peers. Sure. Why not? Like, I kind of think it's a great idea personally.
Yeah. And I love that idea, and I would definitely partake in that for certain. So for sure, no doubt about that. No, I think the natural next question is, for me, if as a developer, you're trying to build out an application that takes advantage of DigiAssets.
Yep.
What is the concept that you guys have in terms of APIs that can talk to Digibyte blockchain to deal with these sorts of things? Can we, you know, is that in the plans? Does it already exist?
Yeah, so if I was clever, I would have actually sent this to you yesterday. So you could have had a look at it and kind of even given some feedback and critiqued it and gone, hey, this is cool because I can see stuff over here, but we're missing like stuff over here sort of thing. Gotcha. Or wow, we've got enough for me to go straight away and issue an asset. The interesting thing is, so if you go back into the Digi Explorer, specifically on testnet, you can go back a little bit and see through some of the older transactions. There's already a couple of companies, one in the States, I'm seeing there's also one in Brazil, that have gone and used some of these APIs and things that we've gone and put up. And let me have a quick look here. Yeah, so those are available. Maybe I'll flick you through a link, and you could potentially add some thoughts like at the end of the video or whatever. And to tell people. I mean, that's the thing. So this is not like a set and forget. This is very much something that we want feedback, both from developers, from end users, from everybody. We want to keep growing this and making it better, like constantly improving it, because it's not just a set and forget. This is very much going to grow and evolve and progress and become something beautiful. So yeah, that's if people do have any details that they would like to give us feedback on, yeah, by all means, like send them through. Let us know what your thoughts are. Give us some feedback and stuff. So
definitely, yeah. And I think that's a perfect time to segue into this quick call to action. You know, anybody who hasn't given Josiah a follow on Twitter, definitely worth it. But beyond that, I think if you have any feedback about what we talked about today, what you might want to hear about in a future stream or hangout, let us know in the comments below. But finally, I am going to create a video about how to set up DigiVault, create your own digital asset in general. That's coming some point after this video posts, or maybe before. I'm not sure when content's going to line up, but it's recorded and it's ready to go. Just got to cut it together. So that's coming. And then you guys can give your feedback directly. You know, what's your experience with DigiAssets and setting up your own DigiAsset to send to your friends? So then, you know, the more that the community engages, I think the better.
Yeah, and we want to take that feedback and we want to build something that's the best we can. Like it's part of our slogan is to be forward thinking. Being forward thinking also means that you've got to take feedback about where you've been and where you're going. So yeah, give us some feedback. Constructive criticism is always nice. Better than
silence when there's an issue.
Yeah. If there are problems, look, we want to solve them, and you know, it's code. It happens, but yeah, we're making something great here, and you give us your feedback. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's such early days. I think people forget because we're already used to applications. We're used to interacting with computers and everything works. But the complexity that is behind these things is far beyond, far beyond what you see in the UI, right?
Yeah.
So when stuff breaks, it gets fixed. As long as it gets reported and people can get to the bottom of it, the faster bugs get reported, the faster they get fixed. Always.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is also, I mean, like you say, it's interesting because this is a a decentralized and distributed permissionless blockchain. So that adds additional complexity over and above.
Yeah.
Just creating like Facebook, for example, where it's one big database split across a bunch of servers that Facebook controls. This is trying to convince people that you don't even know who they are, that your vision for the future is the way to go, and that they should run the latest application and stuff.
And when there's no company, Digibyte isn't a company. It's an organization primarily of just people that care about it. And that's unique in and of itself. There are only a handful of, projects, if you will, that can even say that. So
yeah.
Awesome. Well, Josiah, I know we've been going for a while now. We've shown off some really cool stuff about DigiAssets, talked about the history, where you're going, got to hang out in general, which is always cool.
Yeah, nice, man. Thank you so much for having me on your show, and glad that we could tee this up and show it off to your viewers. It's
something to be proud of for sure, man. And I appreciate you taking the time out. I know it's early morning for you, late afternoon for me.
The sunlight just starting to come through the window there before.
Just peeking in. Sun will be going down somewhat shortly over here.
Nice.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, and we will of course do it again soon. More videos to come on my channel about Digibyte, always.
Cool, man. Hey, look, appreciate your time. Thank you so much to your viewers as well. I hope they've enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one.
Awesome. Cheers, man.
Take care.